Okay, so this is week 1B, and we're going to work on lower thirds. First thing we want to do is make a new composition. So we'll come up here to Composition, New Composition. Same preset as before, HDTV 1080 2997 square pixels with our frame rate to be 2997. We want our duration to be 5 seconds this time. So last time it was 10 seconds, this time I want it to be 05. 1B, and click OK. So now I need to import the two elements I'm going to use, which is the Twitter logo and the Coach Brown photo. So I have my elements here, so Neil Brown, and hold down Command or Control if you're a PC. I want to drag and drop the Coach Brown picture into my composition, or my timeline in this case. So I grab Coach Brown and I'm going to drag him down here. So obviously we need to fix that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select my photo in my timeline. I'm going to go to Layer, Transform. I want to go Fit to Width. And so now Coach Brown is fitting inside my composition. Now also, his little head's cut off a little bit, so I want to bring it down a little bit. So I'm going to go over here to Toggle, Transform, and Position. And it's at 540. I'm going to change it to 600. And you will notice now that Coach Brown looks rather centered, and we have room here to make our lower third. So what I'm going to do now is select the rectangle tool to make my lower third. Rectangle tool. And kind of something like that. Something to fit the Twitter logo and his Twitter handle. And I want to change the correct colors. So I'm going to change the hex code on my fill, which is up here, to Mountaineer Blue, which is 002855. Click OK. And I want it to be Mountaineer Gold on the stroke, and it's 10 points. You can make it bigger if you want. Of course, I don't have it selected, so see how much you can change the shape, the size of it. Make it a little bit bigger than I had before, just to kind of. And I'm going to change the color to EAAA00, which is officially Mountaineer Gold. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and 2 seconds into my timeline, which is right about there. It's an approximate, doesn't have to be exact. And in the timeline on the shape layer, I'm going to toggle, transform. I'm going to make a keyframe here at position because I want it to end right there. I'm going to back up a little bit, and changing the x-axis, I want to move it off the screen. And the reason I'm doing that is so we want it to end there, but we want it to affect on. So go back to the beginning of my timeline. Let's take a look. And there you go. That affects right on just like we want it to. So let's bring in our Twitter logo. So let me move back a little bit past here so that the shape layer is on the screen. Drag the Twitter bird into our timeline. Twitter bird's already up there. I want to put it here inside the rectangle so it's part of my lower third. So using the selection tool, I'll place the Twitter bird down here. It's a little bit bigger than I want it to be, so I'm going to toggle, transform, and scale as needed. Nothing too big. It's also an EPS file, which means I can, rasterize it. If I change it to like, because it wasn't a very big logo to begin with, but it's an EPS or a PDF. They automatically rasterize. So if I turn off the rasterize, you notice how it gets all pixelated and expanded because it's not big enough to handle that. But because it's an EPS file, I can turn on rasterize and it keeps its full resolution there. I believe my scale was 76. Change it back to 76. I also want the parent layer, I want it to be, if you will, married to my shape layer so that when my shape layer moves, my Twitter logo moves. So I'm going to change this to, it says parent and link. I'm going to parent it to my shape layer. And what happens there is now it's parented wherever the shape layer goes, Twitter logo goes. Also not a big fan of the Twitter blue on top of a Mountaineer blue. We're going to change the color to white. Let's go up to Window, Effects and Presets, check mark it so that it appears, and I'm going to type in fill. Now, select my Twitter bird, double click the icon for fill, and it has applied the fill to my Twitter logo, and the default color is red. We want it to be white. All F's, change it to white, and there you go. Now selecting the text tool, and I need to type in Coach Brown's Twitter handle, which is @Neil Brown _WVU. Notice I did not make a text box, just typed in the text logo as is. You want the text to be all caps, so if I didn't, you can turn off the caps, but make sure that whatever tool you're working on, valuable lesson, you're going to come across this a lot. You go to do something, nothing happens. It's because I didn't have it selected in my timeline. Whatever you're working with, make sure it is selected in your timeline. But I do want it to be all caps. And I'm going to change the font to Arial Black. I like Arial Black. You'll notice the spacing. I want that to be 0, which is normal. The width, I just want it to be regular, 100%. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. This is not on the written part, but for sake of doing things, let's do it like that. Now I'm going to move Neil Brown using my selection tool into my Twitter box. And yep, way too big. So it's selected. Over here, change the scale of the font. Still a little too big for my liking. There you go. And of course we want to parent it to our shape layer so that where it moves, Neil Brown moves. I'm going to turn on the motion blur now, and what it does is it gives it kind of a realistic eyeball look when it moves. This is these triple rings here, this is your motion blur. So now I've enabled it for the entire timeline, but I don't have to do it for my entire timeline. I just want it for 3 out of my 4 layers. I don't want my picture to have motion blur. So you'll notice that there's a little bit more that we need here. So this toggle switches and modes, click that, and now a whole different menu comes up. I'll do that again. Toggle switches and modes. So we have our motion blur. Now we want to enable it on our 3 layers. So we checkbox, motion blur, and motion blur. So now when it moves, you'll notice it's a little bit fuzzy, but that's how the human eye works. So notice the difference. Regular, motion blur. Now we're going to select the picture of Coach Brown and give it kind of a different color just to kind of break things up. Effects and presets. Tritone. I have the picture of Coach Brown selected. I'm going to double click Tritone. And I can change the color. I want it to be kind of a blue. Maybe I'll go Mountaineer blue and lighten it. So 002855. But it's a little too dark, so let's just brighten it up a little bit. Maybe too bright. Click OK. Back to the beginning. And we're good.